So this is a talk. So when I started discussing with Farooq, I said, "Look, I'm not a heritage guy, right? I'm not an architect. I'm not an expert in old buildings." But he said, "Look, you're almost antediluvian, and you're an expert in old advertising. So why don't you talk about old ads and how they reflect the change?" So I pulled out this talk of mine, which is based on my book, Nawab News Noodles: India Through 50 Years of Advertising, and I thought it'll be apt to share this uh, with with the group here. So uh, let me start and say why it is relevant to even look at advertising and changing society through the lens of advertising. I think there are a lot of books have been written about how society has changed and how films have, for example, reflected it. Now, uh, Rachel Dyer, who's a professor in UK, has written several books on how movies, Bollywood has reflected the change in Indian society, whether it's the birth of the angry young man or later the growth of the NRI Indian with Dilwale Dulhania, etc., etc. But no one has looked at advertising and how advertising has reflected the change. So that's an opportunity I picked up. This book came out in, I think, 2016 or so. And so let me jump right in. And those people who are here, thank you for joining me here. I should have thanked you before. Thank you for joining, and all the contribution you make really goes to the Kaki Foundation. So thank you for joining us. So we'll now jump right in. I don't know how many of you have heard of this person, Marshall McLuhan. Um, Marshall McLuhan was a professor of English at University of Toronto, Canada, and he wrote a kind of a landmark book called Understanding Media. And he kind of brought in new concepts, which was that time poo-pooed as really stupid. And he wrote, "These historians and archaeologists will one day discover that the ads of our times are the richest and the most faithful daily reflection any society can make." So if we want to understand how people lived, let's say 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, we start digging. And we get to a little bit of pottery or whatever, spoon, and then we figure out how they lived. Now, if 1,000 years from now they want to study how we lived in the year 2000 or 1990 or 2020, probably our advertising will be a good reflection of what we did, how we lived, what products we used, etc., etc. So Marshall McLuhan is today remembered. He passed away many years ago. He's remembered because he's the guy who wrote for the first time, "Medium is the message." He's also created the concept of hot media, cold media, and global village. He's the first person to think of this concept called global village. And so, why does it make sense to look at social change through the advertising lens? Because, you know, we who worked in advertising, I worked for many years in an agency called FC Dulka. Before that, I started my career with an agency called Rediffusion, all in Mumbai. Uh, Advertising often reflects the change which is happening in society. Sometimes bold advertising tries to drive change, tries to predict change. And if you look at 50 years of advertising, you can almost see how society has changed. And how was Indian society changed? This was India of the 1960s. Ad from that time, right? We had one airline, Air India, and one domestic airline, Indian Airlines. We had two brands of probably music systems, Murphy and probably Philips. We had two brands of cars, Ambassador and Fiat, which later became Premier Padmini. We had Godrej refrigerator. Bharat, you must be happy to see this Godrej refrigerator here. Uh, and of course, two more brands. But this was India of the 60s and even 70s and even 80s and even early 90s. I keep saying this, when I was trying to set up an office or look for a new office in Hyderabad, we had an office, the lease was running out, we had to move. And I asked people to sit in my forum, look, what was the criterion I used for picking up an office space? New office space in Hyderabad, given the fact that rent is fixed and we can afford only this much rent. And people give me answers saying, look, close to the airport, close to where client offices are, or close to where your staff live, etc., etc. But the real reason was that we had to pick an office where we could get a landline phone in a month's time. And this, I'm not talking about long time back. This was, I think, the year 1990 or 1991. So till then, everything was in a waiting list in our country. But that dramatically changed in the year 90s onwards, right? In 2010, we are looking at bullet train. We're looking at everyone using, um, you know, credit card, mobile phones, supermarkets, and we are doing this show here virtually. I mean, this would have been probably unimaginable even say 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So India has dramatically changed. So my book is not a study of the history of Indian advertising. So I don't think I'm not a historian. I'm not an expert in Indian history. It's not a history book. What I've looked at is I've looked at different, I've sliced advertising through various kind of lenses. Like I've looked at women, how women have been presented, how men have been presented, how marriage has been presented, how jobs have been presented, how education, mobility. So there are about 20 chapters. I'll not bore you with the full list. And let's now jump right in to what we are going to watch. We're going to watch a lot of old ads. Some of them you will even wonder, did they really run on TV? But they ran on TV. And some of them are really very popular. So I'll start with married life in India. Married life in India was equated to a pressure cooker, right? And not because the marriage was in a pressure cooker, no, for a very simple reason. um, Love, the symbol of marital love, was defined by a brand, and this is a brand called Prestige. They made pressure cookers, and this was the ad which was done in our own Mumbai city.
आइए जनाब आइए कहिए क्या चाहिए
जी वो एक प्रेशर कुकर चाहिए।
प्रेशर कुकर चलिए क्यों नहीं आप अपनी बीवी से कितना प्यार करते हैं ये तो बताइए
क्या मतलब है आपका?
मतलब है मान लीजिए आप आपकी बीवी को सिर्फ थोड़ा सा चाहते हैं अगर तो चलेगा प्रेशर कुकर थोड़ा ज्यादा लगाव है जनाब तो थोड़ा अच्छा प्रेशर कुकर लेके देंगे आप अगर अपनी जितनी से भी ज्यादा प्यारी है इनकी जान तो फिर ये 100% सुरक्षित लेके देंगे श्रीमान।
लेकिन प्रेस्टीज ही क्यों?
क्योंकि सिर्फ इसी में है अनोखा गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम जिससे जरा भी खतरा नहीं रहता। ये देखिए ये इस तरह काम करता है। अगर कुछ दाने वेट वेंट में फंस जाएं तो साधारण प्रेशर कुकर में जरूरत से ज्यादा प्रेशर जमा होने से खतरा पैदा हो सकता है, लेकिन नए प्रेस्टीज में सेफ्टी प्लग कैसा भी लगा हो अनोखे गास्केट रिलीज सिस्टम की वजह से आप सुरक्षित रूप से बाहर निकल जाती हो।
जी तो प्रेस्टीज ही दीजिए।
जो बीवी से सचमुच करते प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करें इनकार।
And interestingly, I thought this ad was way back. I thought this ad was made in the 1970s or so. And I knew this ad was made by Prahlad Kakkar. So I got in touch with him when I was writing the book. And in fact, he even endorsed the book. I said, yeah, Prahlad, when did you make that? This ad actually ran, I think, between 1989 to almost 93, 94, 95. This ad ran. And those of you from advertising will recognize the voice, if not the face, which is Pandit Vinod Sharma, who plays the role of a shopkeeper in this ad. And I think this is the first time Pandit ji was featured in an ad. And of course, the two people playing the role are, Raja Bundela, famous theater actor, and the lady, I don't know her name. But, interestingly, this was marriage, like जो बीवी से करे प्यार वो प्रेस्टीज से कैसे करे इनकार. Now you may say this is very regressive, but interestingly Prestige has revived this kind of advertising now. They have used, I think, Aishwarya Rai and Abhishek Bachchan is now cooking for Aishwarya, something like that. But this ad ran for many years. And let's move to the other end of this country, right? From Mumbai, we go all the way to Kolkata, we go to ITC. Now, ITC had this humongously successful brand called Will's Filter. And Will's Filter had this ad called, Will's Filter had this ad which said made for each other. And this particular ad had this official Polish joke book. And this was this is kind of legendary as an ad, because this ad ran unchanged for something like 8 years. Now, you may wonder why did it run for 8 years? Simply because, this ad worked. This ad worked so well, but the company kept running this ad continuously in all the magazine, India Today, Illustrated Weekly, etc., for 8 years. So, but the ITC also did something very innovative. They ran this thing called the Made for Each Other contest, where couple are selected from Mumbai and Delhi and Chennai, and then they go on to the grand finale in Delhi, and they get awarded the Made for Each Other couple. And I know a friend of mine started smoking in order to enter this contest. He and his wife actually won the Made for Each Other couple contest, but the marriage did not last. So, well, these things happen, but they got the car, and I don't know what they did, whether they split it or not. But this was marriage of that time. You buy a pressure cooker if you love your car, you blow smoke into your wife's face. But that has changed in the last 10 years. The marriage equation has changed, and interestingly, one ad captured this brilliantly. This came out in the year about 5-6 years ago. Some of you may remember it.
चॉइस नहीं है, तुम्हें ये करना ही पड़ेगा.
लेकिन प्रिया, इतने कम टाइम में ये सब कैसे होगा?
Sorry guys, you'll have to manage it. Okay? You should start now. Hi, how's it going?
Okay.
कुछ हो तो कॉल करना.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. अच्छा रोहित, मैं घर पहुंच रही हूँ. तुम डिनर में क्या खाओगे? Okay.
टाइम लगेगा. बॉस ने बहुत काम दिया है. बाय.
बॉस को बोलो कि वाइफ बुला रही है.
तुम भी बोलो ना बॉस को.
जल्दी आना. वेट करूंगी.
कभी कभी बस एक स्मार्टफोन लाइफ में थोड़ा मैजिक ला सकता है. तभी तो खास स्मार्टफोन्स के लिए बना है एयरटेल, द स्मार्टफोन नेटवर्क.
I think this ad kind of epitomized the new marriage equation emerging in India. The wife can actually be more educated, can be the husband's boss even in an organization. But unfortunately, this ad actually got kind of trolled in social media. This was produced, written by our own Mumbai boy. I don't know whether I can call him boy, but Agnello Dias, shot by a Mumbai filmmaker. Unfortunately, this got badly trolled in social media because the attack was because she is you're putting her in a gender specific role. Why should she go home and cook? Blah 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 blah. But the fact is, she's going home and cooking, but she's not using her grandmother's pressure cooker. I mean, she's got nice fancy equipment. She seems to be enjoying herself cooking. So guys, I think we should you should cut some slack to ads which are kind of pushing the boundary. And this ad, I think, was a great ad. It was on the brief. It talked about telecom. It talked about connectivity. It talked about video calls. It also pushed the agenda of women empowerment, women becoming more educated, smarter, and actually better than their husband. But and I asked this, marriage equations are changing in India, right? And during COVID, we've seen a whole lot of this happening again. But even before COVID, the role men play in home is changing. And if you were to look at the American numbers, in America, 49% of the men do the grocery shopping, 43% do the cooking, primary job of cooking, 43%, and dropping kids to school, 40%. Now, this is happening in India. And when I do this talk to younger audiences and I ask how many boys in the class can cook, in the younger crowd, almost all the hands go up. I don't ask the girls, but the boys, all of them say they know how to cook. And whereas the same talk delivered to a 50 plus audience, very few men know how to cook. But I hopefully with this COVID, some change might have happened. So that was marriage, how it was then, how it is going to be going forward. Right? Let's now move to old age. Now, old age in India was all about, goli खा के जाता हूँ मैं, pilgrimage पे जाता हूँ, etc., etc. But that is changing. So let me play a nice old ad written by our own Mumbai. I think Mukul Upadhyay himself wrote this jingle, and it's a nice, cute ad about old age in India. And this is one of the ads. There are many others who presented old age this way. So let's watch this.
जब मैं छोटा लड़का था बड़ी शरारत करता था मेरी चोरी पकड़ी जाती जब रोशन होता बाजार अब मैं बिल्कुल बूढ़ा हूँ तो लिखा कर जीता हूँ लेकिन आज भी घर के अंदर रोशनी भी बाजार रोशनी की दुनिया का सरताज बाजार.
So this was one ad, but there were a lot of ads like this showing old people having Chavanprash, having this, having that. But that is changing today. We have seen a lot of different kind of advertising. Here is one where this old lady is using a sewing machine. Her husband comes and puts a little box in front of her. She opens the box and she finds a gold ring there. And so she says, "Is umur mein heere?" And the old man replies, "Heere ko kya pata, tera umr kya hai?" It's written by Piyush, and I think the line said it all. Brilliant, right? But I asked this question in my management lectures: which brand is it? And no one can get it right. So let me ask the same question: which brand do you think this is? Which brand was being advertised in this ad?
SBI.
Nikhil got it right. Okay, yeah, SBI. Sorry. Normally I get people saying Tanishq and other kind of jewelry brand. It was not a jewelry brand. It was actually Nikhil SBI Life. It was actually a life insurance ad, because life insurance is targeting a lot of people in the middle age to say that, look, if you save money with us, you can live a very happy life. And there's another one. This one, old man comes home. He's packing his bags in the morning, and so his wife asks, where are you going? You just came back from a holiday. She says, no. He says, no, I'm going for a wedding. He says, where? To Calcutta. For what? Whose wedding? He says, my walking friend Sharma. Sharma's, sister's granddaughter is getting married in Kolkata, so I'm going there. So his wife asks, Sharma's sister's granddaughter getting married in Kolkata and you're going? You don't have anything else to do? So he says, no, I don't have anything else to do. So this is a lot of advertising today are presenting old age in India to be something which people are looking forward to. Well, the truth is, today, at least if you look at the top 20% of Indian society, the old people have saved enough money. They've probably bought their own apartment, and therefore they can live in a fair bit of comfort. But of course, there are hidden worries about healthcare, about illness, etc., etc., etc. So maybe advertising is presenting a kind of a rose-tinted picture about old age. So we saw marriage, we saw old people. Let's jump to young people. So I normally ask this question, which I will not ask this audience. This audience knows a lot. That is, Complan advertising, which has Shahid Kapoor and don't unmute yourself. Put the answer in the chat box so that we can have a lot of people putting crazy answers there. So that is Shahid Kapoor, Ayesha Takia. Everyone knows that. Who knows the name of that little Rasna girl? Anyone knows? Knows her name? No? Okay. So if you're not typed, don't type now. That's Ankita Zaveri. The yellow somersaulting kid is from a brand called Sundrop, which our agency FCB Ulka handled still handling, I think, for many, many years. So we had a lot of ads in India which featured children, right? Drinks, cooking oil, milk, food, beverage, etc., etc. But my favorite ad is this one, which is hidden behind this black box. Which is this ad? Any idea? Featuring a kid. Jalebi. Wow. Okay. Good. So this is an advertising audience, so I should be asking these questions. Yeah. So let me play this ad. The sound is a little low, but I think all of us will get the what's being said. So.
अरे बबलू, यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो?
सब गुस्सा करते हैं, मैं घर छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ।
मगर घर में तो मम्मी ने गर्मा गर्म जलेबियाँ बनाई है।
जलेबी?
तो क्या तय किया आपने?
जाना तो है, मगर
हाँ, मगर 20-25 साल बाद
अनोखी शुद्धता, अनोखा असर, धारा।
You know, this ad, I must have seen it, I don't know, maybe 200, 300 times, but whenever I see it, it brings a smile. Okay. Now, here are some trivia about this ad. This was actually produced, made in Mumbai by a Mumbai writer. So this was, presented to Dr. Kurian at Amul. This is Mother Dairy. He approved it. The film rang. The film actually celebrated its silver anniversary a couple of years ago. And after the film started running for about a month, there was an issue. So they went to Dr. Kurian and said, Dr. Kurian, there is a bit of a problem. Dr. Kurian said, what's the problem? He said, there is this news report in I think one of the Punjabi newspapers that a kid was found sitting in the railway station, and when asked what was he doing there alone, he said, Mummy is not making jalebi, I'm running away from home. Now, so they said, look, sir, what to do? So Dr. Kurian, he had a great sense of humor. So Dr. Kurian said, well, the ad is working, keep running it. So they ran the ad for, I think, for a year or 2, 3 it ran. And you look at this ad, it's a full story being told in, like, today we talk about brands and content creation and extended content and this and that. This is great content. The heart of the film is the jalebi, and jalebi is made with the oil. And there's a full story. I wrote in the book that a postman spots the kid in the railway station. So my young editor, who was 25 years of age, said, how can you say it's a postman? So I said, look, he's a postman because look at the semiotic symbols. Semiology is about the study of symbols, right? So look at the semiotics of this. One, an old man dressed in a khaki uniform. That's a giveaway that he's a postman. Two, he's riding a cycle. Three, he knows Bablu and Bablu knows him. So in a small town, the postman knows everyone. So amazing. And this ad is one of my favorites for kids. So, but this is how kids are presented. Even today, a lot of kids are presented in Indian advertising like this. But once in a while you get an ad which suddenly shows a different window to how kids are to be shown. And this is a ad, again, I think probably about 8 years old. A very different way of showing parenting.
मेरे बेटे को जीत की आदत तब लगेगी जब वो मुझे हराएगा, तब नहीं जब मैं उसे जीतने दूंगी। आखिर आदतें ना एक दिन में बनती हैं ना आसानी से, और ये बच्चों को घर बैठे नहीं सिखाया जाता। तो जिस दिन वो मुझे हराएगा, मैं जीत जाऊंगी। सिर्फ एक माँ अच्छी आदतों की अहमियत समझती है, इसलिए मैं उसे रोज बॉर्नवीटा देती हूँ।
So this ad is really epitomizes this concept of tiger mom. The tiger mom concept started in China and the ASEAN countries, where the mother is pushing her kid continuously to excel. And in India too, we've seen that happening. Coaching classes start when you have coaching classes for getting into the good schools, and then you have coaching class getting into the good institutes, and it goes on, right? And as you know, government has unveiled a new education policy. The idea is to try and break the stranglehold of coaching classes. And something which may be shocking to you, uh, that annual budget of all the IITs is less than what parents spend on coaching their children for getting into IIT. This is amazingly absurd. Uh, Amazingly absurd. Yeah, Kaisa, thank you. Amazingly absurd, and this can only probably happen in India. That and coaching classes make more money. They are a bigger business than the actual engineering colleges. But this is being driven by various things, right? Nuclear families, educated moms, increasing affluence, um, uh, and of course, absence of grandparents. And brands are reflecting this change as well. And so, while we still do see cute kids in ads, don't be too surprised if you start seeing this tiger mom concept, as Kaizad said, that there is actually another PNG ad which has a similar supermom concept. Okay, let's. So we looked at marriage, we looked at old age, looked at kids. Now let's look at men. Indian men were macho, right? This is Vinod Khanna running with the horse on the Juhu beach, and we had numerous ads like this. We had Life Boy, where these macho men have play football and then they have a bath with this red soap, which smelt like nothing on earth. And they sang this song of Tandurusti Ki Raksha Karta Hai Life Boy. And of course, we have this macho looking guy smoking a cigarette. This audience will know who he is, but just for fun, some of you can put down his name. Jaggu Dada. Yes, he was spotted posing with his son the other day. All the newspapers carried his photograph with his son, Jaggu Dada, right? And then, of course, there's another guy fighting baddies wearing an andi. This guy is uh, a little more difficult to recognize, and that's Talib Tahil, I think. Frenchie is a campaign created by a Mumbai-based Dalip Tahil, yes, Mumbai-based agency Advertising Avenues. Our dear friend Gautam Rakshit was the man behind this campaign. Gautam Rakshit, as some of you will know, passed away a few months ago. Absolutely wonderful human being, Gautam. Uh, so this is, man, right? Macho, smoking and fighting. But this has changed dramatically. In the year 2005 came a brand uh, which upended all this by launching a fairness cream for men. The brand, Fair and Lovely, the company Imami from Kolkata, and they used Shah Rukh Khan as a model. They tested it in Andhra, and within a year it hit 100 crore turnover. And then and then Unilever was quick to follow. They launched Fair and Lovely Men's Active, and the whole fairness cream category has kind of become big. Not only that, and when we used to do research, visiting homes to look at what people have in their home, if in a middle class home there are 4 or 5 women cosmetics, you end up finding there are probably 6 or 7 men cosmetics. There is obviously face cream like Fair and Handsome. There are probably 1 or 2 brands of deos. There are probably one brand of face wash, maybe a gel, and numerous other things. And now, if you have a beard, there is a whole new thing about beard moisturizers and beard softeners. So we have, in fact, seen the metrosexual man arrive. The metrosexual man is an interesting term. It was coined about 10 years ago in a Vanity Fair article. And the author said metrosexual man has arrived, and metrosexual man is defined by men who moisturize and dash dash dash. What is a dash dash dash? Since we have a very erudite audience, let me ask this question. Do you know what the article said? Men who moisturize and dash dash dash. No, no, not wax. Sorry. No. No, this is a different thought. Huh? It's got nothing to do with cosmetics. No. Uh, so if you're started typing, continue typing. If you've not yet started, stop. I'll give you the answer. It said men who moisturize are metrosexual men are men who moisturize and read a lot of magazines. Apparently, in America, reading magazine is a very feminine trait. But India, the metrosexual man is very much here. So men, and if you look at it, men are the most threatened species in India. Like we saw, they have to start cooking, they have to start looking after babies, like in this Nivea ad, and because they are being threatened by the rise of the women. Women are being more educated. Women are grabbing all their jobs. Women are taking away their promotions. And so, what are men doing? Men are therefore buying, moisturizers and applying it on their face to take care of this insecurity, right? And this is going to continue. This is going to continue as women become more and more articulate, more and more vocal in our society, right? And I've put on some points here. I will not go into that because we can spend time discussing on, is eve teasing rising because men are being threatened, or is it rising because women are seeing, going out more often, etc., etc., etc. Let's from there, let's come to jobs. Job is a job is a job, right? But in India, we've had, multiple products sold under the banner that if you use this product, you will get this job. So when Wheel launched, when Unilever launched Wheel many years ago, the ad showed this guy coming home, and he takes off his shirt and flings it at his wife and says, "Naukri fir nahi mili." So wife looks at him saying, "Why?" And he says, "Mere kameez meli thi." So my shirt was, dirty. And so this poor lady doesn't know what to do. So she looks up, and in advertising, Perina and Bharatnal will tell you, in advertising, there is a device called the voice of God. So from the top, and from the top, voice of God comes. Say, "Ab pesh hai naya wheel, nimbu ke shakti ke saath," and boom, she gets a pack of wheel in her hand, and she uses it to wash her husband's shirt. It becomes white. He goes out, gets a job, comes and hugs her, right? So you use the right detergent, you can get a job. Or, Pond's Dream Flower Talc, where this woman is getting ready for an interview. She sees a tin of Pond's in front of her, the dressing table. She takes it and dabs it all over. And then you see her going in and answering questions very confidently. So you use the right talcum powder, you can get a job. But the other ad I'm going to talk about, Fair and Lovely, has been in the news for a lot of reasons in the last 1 month. Uh, Fair and Lovely had this ad, which actually turned out to be a bonanza ad for the brand, where this woman comes home, this girl comes home, she's got a father and a mother sitting there, and they ask her, "Kya hua?" And she says, "Nahi mili." She didn't get the job. And the father makes a comment to the mother, "Kash beta hota." This girl is in tears. She's in, leaves the room. And then in advertising, we have a second device called the Didi. So the neighborhood Didi meets her and, tells her, "Don't worry," and she gives her 2 packs of Fair and Lovely. She applies Fair and Lovely. She becomes fair, and she actually lands an air hostess job. And as a treat, she takes her her father to a five-star hotel restaurant for a cup of coffee, and the man has his coffee, and then he asks her again. I think the script was written by Balki. "Beta, aur ek cup coffee milega kya?" And the fact that beta and the first line beta. So this actually was a game changer for Fair and Lovely. It suddenly understood the way young girls are seeing today. It's not only marriage, but it's about getting a job. But this got rated as the worst ad of the decade uh, because of various reasons, including sexism, etc., etc., etc. But but today jobs are different, right? And there is a whole genre of highly talented young people coming up for whom they can get a job at any point of time. And if you ill treat them, they're going to take revenge. And so this ad done by FCV, Ulka, I think 2005, brought it alive.
Sir, report 1. Report 2. But sir...
Shut up!
Sir, hotel reservation desk on line 2.
Yes, I would like to book a table for 2.
Sure, sir.
Poolside.
Your name, sir?
Hari Sadhu.
What, sir?
Hari Sadhu.
Sir, may I?
Hmm.
Yes, write down Hari Sadhu. H for Hitler, A for arrogant, R for rascal, I for idiot. That's right. Now write Sadhu. S for...
shameless.
This ad was rated as one of the top 5 ads of the decade or something like that. But interestingly, this is for a Delhi client, but the film was made in Mumbai by our own Rajesh Krishnan, an absolutely crazy filmmaker, also an MBA graduate from NMIMS. And he's got a new feature film coming out. So we should all watch it. If this is any example, the feature film is going to be great fun. But this is it, right? So when I do my talks to HR heads of companies, I tell them, look, you got a big problem. On the one hand, the top 10% of the company is going to be doing this. They're going to be, they're going to be very upset if the boss says anything negative to them, and they're going to leave because they're going to get a job. At the other end, the lower end, you got hundreds of people applying for every job. So this is a big quandary which will continue, and I think it's going to make the problem. This COVID is going to make the problem even more complex for companies. Whom to keep, whom to let go, etc., etc., etc. So we looked at marriage, we've looked at old age, we looked at kids, we looked at men, we looked at jobs. Now let's get to the Nawabs. So India, we had a lot of Nawabs, and we also had a lot of suiting brands. And there was a Nawab of Pataudi, modeling for Gwalior. We had Vivian Richards modeling for Vimal, and we had that wonderful Complete Man Raymond campaign created by Nexus Equity, our own Mumbai ad agency. And then there is Salman Bhai. Now, why is Salman Bhai there? Any answers from this audience? No? मैंने प्यार किया, yeah, jeans, yeah, Ravi Raman says jeans. Ravi Raman, unmute yourself and tell me what you mean jeans.
You have written it on the slide, Ambi.
Yeah, jeans became popular, but what is jeans got to do with this ad?
No idea.
No idea. Okay. So, this was the first Hindi film in which the hero wore a pair of jeans almost right through the film. Till then, the heroes in the Hindi films used to wear suits and stuff like that. This is the first film in which the hero wore jeans right through the film. And of course, when I did this talk at Godrej Culture Lab, and I was driving home, someone messaged me saying, "Sir, look at this song." And there was this song in the film where Salman is wearing a suit. So he said, "Sir, Salman is wearing a suit in this film, in this song." I said, "Look, maybe in that song, will you please check the whole film, whether he's wearing a suit in any other scene?" And the guy, obviously, he had a lot of time in his hands. He saw the whole film. And by the time I reached home an hour later, he had said, "Sir, you're right. Salman Bhai is wearing only jeans right through the..." I mean, of course, he was wearing a shirt. And this one is really typical Salman scene. He's not even wearing a shirt. But he wore a shirt in most of the scenes. But he wore jeans. Right now, imagine, when I was studying in IIT 1972 to 77, getting a pair of jeans was like, man, this you get it from America. You ask friends to get it for you. Right? Jeans was very, very aspirational. But today, your nariyal pani wala, your auto rickshaw wala, your pan bidi wala, everyone wears a pair of jeans. And whom do we have to thank for that? Salman Bhai. And this was, Salman Bhai was not paid anything for doing this. He had not even become human then. He became human much later. But this was a genuine, fantastic promotion of the product category. willy-nilly it happened, and it kind of probably helped the brand, helped jeans become very, very popular in India. Uh, Even the doctor, I don't know what that is. Ankur, what is this? Even the doctor? Okay, ignore. Okay, yeah. So this was, and then we had saris. We had numerous sari brands. You know, I started my career in rediffusion. We handled two big sari brands. We had Garden and we had Khatao. And of course, Bombay Dyeing had saris. Vimal, of course, had saris. All kinds of, you know, I mean, any issue of Illustrated Weekly and Dharam Yug used to have 8 ads in color. Out of that, 6 used to be saris, right? But today you don't see so many saris and in Indian advertising. And in fact, you don't see saris in offices, not enough. So two women in Bangalore started this thing called the 100 Sari Pack, where they said we have a lot of saris lying around in the cupboard. We're going to take out a sari every 3 days and wear it, and we're going to, you know, Instagram it and whatever, Pinterest it and all that. We're going to bring back sari as a, you know, as an office wear. But you know, it was a nice experiment. Didn't work too well. But the other thing which has happened is this brand called Manyavar came from nowhere, and they took on this Indian ethnic wear category and made it huge, right? This is a Kolkata-based brand, uh, but it spotted an opportunity that Indian weddings are changing. It is no longer wearing a Raymond suit for an Indian wedding, and I have this concept that the Punjabification of Indian wedding, that you know, weddings are no longer a one-day affair; they go on for 3 days with 6 events, etc. And you wear different stuff, and they spotted it. Manyavar is today, I think, 1,200 crores or something like that, and they've been heavily funded, right? So different things are happening with clothing in India. And now we come to foods. Uh, we've had, you know, dacoits promoting biscuits, and let us see this ad.
अरे ओ कालिया, कहाँ से मेरे लिए क्या ला रहे?
ये बिस्किट लाया सरदार।
अरे ओ सामा, ये देखा तूने?
बच गया।
मैंने 1000 बार कहा कि मुझे असली चीज चाहिए। असली चीज, समझे? अब आएगा मजा। मिठाइयाँ ग्लूकोज डी। गाँव का हर बच्चा जानता है कि गब्बर की असली पसंद क्या है। असली चीज, समझे?
असली ग्लूकोज से भरपूर ब्रिटानिया ग्लूकोज डी, ज्यादा स्वाद, ज्यादा शक्ति।
Britannia Glucose D. This ad was very, very successful. I think I still think it's a fabulous ad. And those days you could actually take a movie, take a scene from the movie, make the ad and run it, because the movies used to run for a year, right? And you could take the first month to make the ad, but no longer. Now we have to put this kind of stuff inside the film itself. But you know, Britannia Glucose D was not a very successful brand, and for many reasons, I will not get into that. But the real successful brand, which kind of took biscuits around the whole country, was Parle G from our own Ville Parla. They are today the biggest cookie brand in the world. They make cookies and biscuits in about 40 different plants around India, and in whether it is urban India, rural India, most middle income, lower income homes start the day with, you know, Parle G biscuit and tea. So what did Parle G do right? They got the taste right, they got the pricing right, they got the distribution right, and they also did a brand change. It was originally called Parle Glucose, became Parle Gluco, and they called it Parle G about 20 years ago, and it became such a huge success. Britannia, in fact, later launched a brand called Britannia Tiger, and I wonder if this ad had been for Britannia Tiger, maybe Britannia Tiger would have been a big success. But you know, another brand did this pretty much similarly. They took a very alien concept, not biscuit, this time noodles, and they hit all the right buttons. Taste, easy to make, uh, very easily available, very attractively priced, and very targeted advertising at one usage occasion. Was when kids come home from school, mummy bhook lagi hai, 2 minute, minutों में तैयार, खाने में मजेदार, you know, Maggie, 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 right? So brilliant. But Santosh writes about it, and I tend to agree that maybe COVID will make some change to our food habits, but by and large, we India, we have the thali concept, right? We put everything in the thali and then start eating. And what is in the middle of the thali is to be made in India, made in your house, made fresh. So your chapati, your rice, your sabji has to be made fresh. What is outside the end of the thali, which could be papad and pickle and stuff like that, is bought out. It's bought and made, right? But with COVID, maybe this will change. Uh, but food marketing is the most challenging thing you can do. And those of you in food marketing, all the best. I think COVID is a great opportunity for us to change this paradigm on what all Indian consumers can buy and eat. As of now, about a year ago, the ready-to-eat category, which is you take stuff and put it in the microwave and eat, is very small. Ready-to-cook is a little bigger, where you open the stuff, add some vegetables, and then eat it. That is big, but ready-to-eat is very small. Maybe that will change now. Let's wait and watch. So we've seen food. Now let's go to the last module of our talk. We are nearing our closing time. This is nudes, and Indian advertising has had a fair bit of nudes. And those of you wanting to see a nude, I will show something a little later. But this ad was done by Trikaya Advertising. It's a nude model wanted, figure chubby, chin double, skin peachy, hair preferably eyes brown, age 8 to 12 months. Candidates should be carried to Trakaya Advertising on Sunday, 12th September, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. address. So this ad was written by, I think, Alok Nanda. It ran in midday, I think on the 10th, which was a Saturday, on a Friday. It ran once, and on that Sunday, they had more than 500 babies in their office bawling away. Right? Great advertising, and this was rated as the ad of the decade by the Copywriters Association. So amazing ad. But this is not the ad all of you came to see. The ad you came to see is this one, which features Milind Soman. And who's the lady there? Does anyone know who's the lady? Madhu Sapre. Okay, wow. Okay. And what's the name of the python, Anuradha?
I've forgotten.
No, Python didn't have a name. Python didn't have a name, so I've written
No,
it. The Python.
I think it was a Juta ad. It was the ad for the Juta, and then it created a lot of.
Yeah, जूता है ना, वो tough shoes का ad है. So this was an ad which appeared in created by our own Ashok Kurian and Elsie Nanji of Ambience Advertising. This ad ran once. It became a court case. The court case ran for something like 14 years. And finally, I think some 8 judges changed in the Indian legal system. If along with education policy, I hope they fix the Indian legal system. This case, completely irrelevant case, ran for 14 years, and finally it was thrown out because I think the judge got tired, saying that's such a frivolous case. And by then the brand had died. I mean, I was talking to Ashok as a part of my research. I said, Ashok, what happened? He said, look, the brand had died, man. I mean, the brand didn't succeed. It died. And this court case kept going on. We had to appear in court. And I think Madhu Sapre emigrated to Canada. Milind Soman is battling on. I still see him sometimes running in near our house. He stays in Burley, and
he has a baby now with this Firangi model.
Nice, and he also acts in that 4 More Shots, Please. So those people who are Milind Soman fans who want to see him like this, he still looks very much like this. Can see that serial called 4 More Shots, Please. Okay, so we've had enough shares of nude. This was one, and the other one, of course, Kama Sutra, created by Lintaz Alec, featuring Pooja Bedi, right? Again, a very phenomenally successful campaign. So we've run the whole gamut. We've gone from marriage to old age, to kids, to men, to jobs, to dress, to food to news, let's just do a little bit of summing up. Role of brands. What is the role of brands? And Irving Goffman wrote this fabulous book called Gender Advertisement, where he looked at a few hundred ads released in America between the 60s and 70s, and he said American ads tend to hyper ritualize roles. The men are taller, bigger, women are smaller, daintier, and he called this hyper ritualization. And after looking at probably a few hundred ads, and some of them new ads, I'm saying that we are also seeing in India new visualization. We are seeing new visualization of new concepts like the Tiger Mom or the Airtel ad where the husband is the boss of the wife. So we are seeing new visualization happening. And as good advertising people, we have to see what is happening in society. We have to listen to what's happening in society. And this ad done by Lintas for Unilever Serve captured it very well. And that was the first time upper middle class woman was shown alone talking to a shopkeeper in the ad, right? And till then, if you remember the Prestige ad, Prestige ad was where the woman didn't even speak when she was nodding with this, and those of you may remember who's the other lady next to the Surf ad, Rajini, right? In fact, Rajini was inspired by Lalita ji. So we normally borrow stuff from popular culture into advertising. In this case, popular culture borrowed from advertising. So you do social listening, you create great advertising, and of course, brands are also today also trying to relook at gender roles. Someone spoke about P&G. P&G done this fantastic campaign on Share the Load, and they've created new ads and about how they need to learn how to cook and how to wash clothes, and they've even done a new one on this. And of course, brands are also showing more guts by grabbing, making statement which beyond. So let me play this one, which actually ran on TV 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
It might not be the right time. I might not be the right one. But there's something about us I want to say. 'Cause there's something between us anyway.
So I have two little anecdotes to tell about this. And when I did this talk in at the Godrej Culture Lab, I made a comment that Tata, this Titan belongs to the Tata Group and very very conservative group and very risky ad. But they did it because they felt this brand could embrace the LGBT cause. Very interestingly, during when the talk was over, having coffee, and slightly elderly gentleman, my age, probably slightly older, walked up to me and said, you said that was a very risky ad. What was so risky about it? I said, aha. So it worked. And later when I asked, Bhaskar Bhatt, the managing director of Titan, how do you approve these ads? You're part of Tata Group, and Tata Group is very conservative. How do you approve ads? So he said, look, these guys make the ad, they come and show it to me. And if I say it's a good ad, they say, no, we're not running it. Whereas if I say I don't understand it, they say, yeah, we're going to run it. I think he was joking, but the fact is, in the same company, you have Raga, which is very conservative looking, you have Tanishq, and then you have Fast Track. Fast Track has really pushed the peanut on many of these things, right? So brands have to start embracing and start living the purpose. There's no point in making one ad for COVID and then say that I'm a beauty brand, but for during the COVID problem, I'm going to be a health brand. That's not going to work. So if you're going to embrace these kind of causes, you need to do that the long term. And I think Fast Track has done that very well. So let me just say that I think those of you involved in advertising, economy has to grow at 7%, 8%. Advertising will continue to grow. We'll see more and more ads and more talented people coming into advertising. We have tremendous amount of talent coming into advertising in India, and especially in Mumbai, which is the mecca. We grow talent in advertising, and then later we give it away to films and now television and now OTT, which is fine, because even if someone comes to advertising as Nitish Tiwari or Ravi Jadhav came to advertising to say, look, we want to learn the craft, but later we want to make movies. Great, come, learn the craft, then go into make movies. But all this, they say, is changing, right? Some digital revolutions coming, and consumers become very digital, and the whole fundas are going to change, and all the old stuff is going out of the window. And you talk to any digital marketing guy, Ankur Pandit, I had a section which I removed, which is a question which I will ask you. Who is the biggest name to go from the world of Indian advertising to the world of Indian movies? No, it's not Balki. Balki is a very talented guy and he endorsed my books, a good friend, but no, not Balki. Good one, Shyam Benegal. No, it's not Shyam Benegal. No, AB was not working in advertising here. No. John Abraham worked in advertising. No, not him. No, not Shekhar Kapoor. Maybe he worked in radio. Maybe he was a radio announcer. Yeah. No. This is a name. I mean, I thought this erudite crowd will get the name. No, Rajiv used to make ads. I made ads with him. Not Rajiv, not Kabir Bedi. Guys, the only hint I'm going to give you is he is the biggest name India has produced in the world of cinema. Ray. Yeah, finally we get it. Satyajit Ray. Satyajit Ray actually started his life as an art director. He was one of the founder directors of an agency called Clarion. And in fact, those of you who've seen Patar Panchali, book came out recently having all the stills of Patar Panchali where he had actually sat and drawn all of them out. And a lot of the drawings were done when he was working in Clarion. So he is the biggest name to go from the world of Indian advertising to the world of Indian movies. That's why I name it very clearly. Indian world of Indian advertising to the world of Indian movies, not Bollywood. Indian movies. So, but okay, finally you guys got it right. So, but you know, all this is fine. Today we say, no, this world is changing. It's become very digital. You know, you've got customer experience, you've got organic acquisition, content marketing, paid acquisition, lot of stuff. And the digital marketing guys talk of just numbers and this and that. But the sorry truth is, more things change, more they are the same. Because as Peter Drucker said, in advertising, in marketing, the only thing we have to focus on is the consumer. And you understand the consumer, you track the consumer, you create communication in any media you want. It could be radio, it could be cinema, it could be TV, it could be YouTube, it could be a Facebook post, it could be Instagram. But finally, our job in advertising and marketing is to understand the consumer and communicate with the consumer. So with that, let me end with two little poems. One from Ogden Nash, I think I shall never see. A billboard as lovely as a tree. Perhaps unless the billboards fall, I'll never see a tree at all. Or this one is anonymous. Codfish lays 10,000 eggs, a homely hen lays one. A codfish never cackles to tell you what she's done. So we scorn the codfish, while the humble hen we prize. It only goes to show you that it pays to advertise. Thank you very much for joining me. Those of you who would like to read marketing books, Harish Bhatt, brand custodian Tata Group, had recently written an article where he had mentioned 5 books you should read during the lockdown, and I'm grateful that he found it fit to include my book, Nawab News Noodles, in his list of 5 books. So thank you for that. And of course, the book has done well. It continues to be available both in Kindle form as well as COM. I have written many books. 9 of them. 10th one should come out before the end of the year. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So with that, I am done. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for contributing your little bit to Khaki. And I'm going to hand back to Farooq.
Okay. Thanks so much, Ambi. That was a fascinating trip. You took us through history, through principles of management, and the trivia and the anecdotes. And thank you also for letting us in on certain secrets in advertising about the voice of God and the voice of Didi. That was a new one for me, and I especially love the way you ended with those two little ditties. And I have one of my own. I think it's not a ditty so much as a saying by one of the management writers who can't recollect at this moment, that doing something without advertising is like kissing somebody in the dark. Nobody knows who did what.
Wow, lovely. Lovely. Yeah. Correct. So it's kissing in the dark. Correct. Yeah.
Right. There are two questions. You've made my work substantially easier. There are two questions only which are unanswered by you. So let's go to that. The first was, in your quest for the research for the book, did you come across any company archives?
Well, I didn't look at it as a history book, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't try to go to the Tata archives or the Uni. I mean, I think there are two companies that have very good archives in India. I think Godrej is building one, but Tata has a very good archive, and I think Unilever has an archive. But I didn't want to go there. I didn't want it to become a history book. So what I did was I spoke to a lot of people, and I had spoken to Bal long time back. He is no more. But I met Gerson Dekuna. He was very, very very, very gracious. He gave me 2 hours of his time, and I spent a lot. In fact, I've quoted him in my book. I read a lot. I mean, I noted down a lot of stuff. I was tempted to go and meet. I like what I thought would be a better idea to locate his book called Double Life. I hunted for it. It's out of print, but thank God for our Flora Fountain booksellers. I found it there, and I read that, and then I spoke to several others who've been in advertising for a long time, and I picked their brain on what about various things like what happened to the Tough campaign or what happened. So basically, talking to people, I didn't approach it like a history book. I approached it as an anecdotal, enjoyable, fun ride through advertising, and in the end, you learn something very good. If you didn't learn anything, fine. I mean, you enjoy the read. It's a light read, and it's a fun book. Yeah, I'm delighted that I do get people writing to me saying, thanks to your book, I got into the world of advertising, and I say, look, my book's purpose is done if every year someone reads this book and gets into advertising because of the book. So
How
this
gratifying
actually
must that be?
that's a very nice story.
Sangamitra Chatterjee adds that Bajaj also has a good archival. Going back to our questions, this is obviously somebody who is in the know. He's requesting you to share fun trivia about the straws in the Rasna glasses.
I don't know, but maybe he knows more. I don't know what's the fun trivia about Rasna glasses.
So we'll come back to that. If the person wishes to still contribute, maybe we'll request him to unmute and talk about it. The next one is more about your views. I'm going to read it verbatim. Do you think old ads with memorable jingles that you have shown here were better than today's ads, which are high on imagery but not memorable?
That's a good question. Our agency, FCB Ulka, was in fact very, very famous for a lot of jingle-based ads. In fact, I had a few. I knocked them out because the talk would have gone on till 8:30 or so. So we had jingles for Amul, we had jingle for milk, we had jingle for Nerolac, we had so many jingles. And the point is, India is full of music, right? Every occasion we have music. When the child is born, you have music. During wedding, you have music. Everywhere you have music, right? So Indian advertising, if you at one time I managed to collect 25 different types of music which have been used in Indian advertising. And there's a chapter in the book on music, and I've talked about a Volta's Megalodon ad which we had created, which had these Gregorian chant kind of music. We've had jazz, we got blues, we've got Carnatic music, we've got Hindustani classical music, we've got Sanskrit chanting happening in. So we had a lot of music, and today I think a lot of ads are being done with a joke in mind. Now, I'm not sure is a trend, but in the middle you get a good ad. Like for example, Airtel did that ad, "Har friend Zaruri Hota Hai," which was a jingle which worked very well. Right, so you get these. Right now the mood is towards telling a story, cracking a joke. But I believe jingles will always stay in Indian advertising.
Okay. There's a question about placement of products in films and TV serials. How did that come about, and is that still very much a trend?
I think that's again a terrific question, and for a long time, placing products in TV ads, or sorry, placing products in movies. I'm sorry, placing products in movies used to be kind of an inside deal. Like those of you remember seeing Bobby, you would remember that Rishi Kapoor and Dimple Kapadia run away on a little two-wheeler. Now that two-wheeler was being made by escorts, and it was placed. It was called the Bobby. It was placed in the movie, and that was a very big success as a movie. But the bike didn't do too well. But we've had, and today there is a big industry which has come up, which actually does the connection. So if I'm making a movie and I want to use a car and I want to have someone, I want to have someone to provide me with clothes for the hero heroine. I want jewelry. So there is a middleman who kind of gets you connected with, let's say, an apparel maker, a jewelry maker, and then you do this. And so that's become big. And maybe in OTT this will become even more, because in OTT you don't have advertising, at least till now. Netflix said they will never have advertising. Maybe Amazon Prime will have ads. So if you don't have advertising, then how do you bring your product in? You will do product placement. So today agencies get a lot of requests from companies saying, look, from film companies saying, we're making this movie, we need a car. We're making this movie, we need a mobile phone. We're making this movie, we have a kid who's growing up. Do you want to place any of your products in that, energy drink or whatever? So this happens now openly. There's a clear deal. You pay so much, you give them the product, and then you promise to advertise for the movie when the movie is getting released. The money is big, but brands are willing to do it.
What is your view on political advertising? Is a question.
Well, we at least in our agency, we had a policy. We never handled any political advertising because it's difficult to kind of figure out where does the slope start and where does it become very slippery. But the point is, it's an individual take. I mean, in political advertising, you, like in any good advertising, right? You cannot advertise a product, a brand, unless you believe in it. So I'm saying that if you doing political advertising, you got to believe in what the political party stands for. I worked on Tata Motors as a brand. I worked on Tata Motors for about 15 years or 16 years, right through Indica, Indigo, etc., etc. And right through that time, I always had a Tata car. I still have one, okay? Because I think that's basic belief. So if you're doing political advertising, guys, please do it. But first, start believing in the party whom you're going to advertise for. And then hopefully don't lie.
Honesty, it's all about honesty. This question seems to be from a budding copywriter. What things should we keep in mind when copywriting in view of the Doordarshan's terms and conditions? It's apparently something which you've written in your book. I'll read out the question verbatim. You wrote about Doordarshan's restrictions on terms and conditions. Are there certain things we should be keeping in mind while doing copywriting?
Not at all. Doordarshan is in ancient history. Today, good old days, Doordarshan had its own censor rules. So you had to go and actually, and a whole chapter I've written about it. Today, that doesn't matter. Today, Doordarshan, I'll accept any ad you give them as long as it's not wrong. So if you're doing something wrong, you'll get hauled up in the Advertising Standards Council of India. And now government is also going to come after you in a big way with some fines. So don't worry about, censorship. Don't worry about Doordarshan. Write something, write exciting stuff, write stuff, tell stories about brands, do things which will move the needle for the brand and connect with the consumer. Because finally your job as a copywriter is to be a storyteller, to tell a story and move the needle for the brand. You will move the needle if your story emotionally, rationally connects with the consumer. Right?
So move
Don't
the
worry.
move the needle. And is there any instance where the needle has moved? Have any old brands been revived thanks to advertising? Would there be any
Many,
value in tapping on customer nostalgia? Question.
many, right? I mean, look at this outstanding work done by Aisha on Royal Enfield. I mean, they brought back a dead brand, right? They improved quality and they went after, started building a cult, building a community, did very limited, very focused kind of advertising. And today, the market capitalization of that company is higher than that of Harley Davidson. Can you believe that? That's true. Brand from India. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope you had an enjoyable session. And thank you, Kaki Talks, for hosting me. I hope all of you had a fun evening, and let me wish you good night and very happy weekend.